Welcome to Vault of Words, a place where centuries of human thought are opened through the voice of AI. Tonight we open another page and step quietly into the mind behind it. Power has always been both feared and desired, an invisible current that shapes every relationship, every decision, every system we live within. We pretend to be immune to it, but we are all playing the same quiet game. Sometimes as the hunter, sometimes as the prey. In the corridors of history, from palaces to boardrooms, power has never belonged only to kings or conquerors. It lives wherever humans interact. Robert Greene called it the 48 laws of power, not as commandments, but as reflections of the world's oldest truth, that influence governs survival. But beneath its strategies and manipulations lies something deeper. A mirror of human psychology. Power reveals who we are when given control, and who we become when it's taken away. It can corrupt, or it can create. It can destroy trust, or build empires. The question is not whether power is good or bad. It's whether we understand the forces that make it move. Because in the end, power doesn't change people. It exposes them. Power is not a crown, or a throne, or a name on a door. It is an atmosphere, a field that forms wherever people gather. It exists in classrooms, families, workplaces, nations. It is not always visible, but always felt. You know when someone has it. You know when you don't. The tension of hierarchy is one of the oldest instincts we carry, woven into our biology. In tribes and kingdoms alike, survival once depended on understanding who held authority and how to navigate it. Today the rules are subtler, but the instincts remain the same. Robert Greene understood that power, at its core, is about psychology. It's not about domination alone, but perception, how others see you, and how you manage that vision. People don't follow truth, they follow confidence. They don't submit to logic, they submit to presence. That's why every law of power begins with awareness, knowing that human behavior is governed by insecurity, ego, fear, and desire. The one who sees these forces clearly, without judgment, begins to move the world quietly. In history's great figures, from Machiavelli's princes to Cleopatra's charm, power was rarely brute force. It was performance. Influence is theater, and humans are the audience. Appear confident when you are uncertain. Speak less than you know. Never outshine the master. Always conceal your intentions. These are not calls for deceit, but lessons in survival. To navigate power, you must understand that people crave reassurance, not honesty. They want to believe in strength, even if it's only composure under pressure. Yet power's greatest illusion is that it can be possessed. It cannot. Power is borrowed, granted by perception, maintained by discipline, and lost by arrogance. The moment you begin to believe you own it, it starts to slip away. History is filled with examples. Emperors who thought they were gods, leaders who mistook fear for loyalty. Power is fluid. It moves to wherever confidence, control, and attention converge. Every interaction is an exchange of influence. When you enter a room, others immediately calculate your value, even if unconsciously, through your tone, your posture, your calmness. The one who doesn't chase attention, but commands it through restraint, begins to shape the space, because true power doesn't shout, it listens, it observes, it acts last, but affects most. We like to imagine power as something grand, but it begins in moments: the choice to remain silent when provoked, the discipline to wait when others rush, the awareness to see people not as they appear, but as they need to be seen. The powerful person understands that control is not about others. It begins with oneself. Power, then, is not the enemy. It's the reflection of human nature. To study it is not to become manipulative. It's to become awake. Because whether you use power to elevate or exploit, to heal or to harm, It will always reveal who you are. In the end, those who understand the dance of influence move with grace through the world, while those who ignore it remain trapped in its shadows. Influence is not chaos. It's architecture. It's the quiet design behind every decision, every allegiance, every downfall. When Robert Greene wrote the 48 Laws of Power, he was not glorifying manipulation. He was mapping a structure that already existed. Influence is how the human world organizes itself. It is built, brick by brick, from psychology, emotion, and perception. Every empire, every career, every relationship is constructed from these unseen materials. At its foundation lies the law of attention. Power follows where attention flows. The person who can direct focus, even subtly, holds the first key to influence. Kings once commanded it with crowns. Today it's commanded through narrative. Control the story, and you control the perception of reality. That's why power has always been theatrical. Influence doesn't need truth, it needs belief. What people believe becomes what they obey. Whether through charisma, fear, or intellect, the influential person designs the frame through which others see the world. But the architecture of influence is not built in a day. It begins with awareness, a deep understanding of what people desire most: validation, security, and belonging. Those who understand these emotional currencies can move others effortlessly. Influence is not about taking control. It's about offering direction. When people feel seen, they willingly align themselves with whoever gives them that recognition. This is why the powerful rarely demand loyalty. They inspire it. Each law of power, when examined closely, reveals a principle of emotional design. Conceal your intentions. Protects your autonomy. Court attention at all costs. Ensures survival in crowded hierarchies. Play to people's fantasies. Acknowledges that humans need illusion more than truth. Greene was not writing about manipulation. He was documenting human behavior. Influence thrives on the intersection between need and perception. The architect of power doesn't force belief. He builds an environment where others want to believe. Influence is not only about presence, it's about absence. Knowing when to withhold, when to disappear, when silence speaks louder than any word. Those who wield influence understand the rhythm of mystery. People chase what withdraws. The unknown holds weight because it allows projection. A leader who reveals everything loses mystique. One who remains unpredictable sustains fascination. Power, like architecture, needs both structure and space. The walls are made of confidence. The silence between them is mystery. The modern world misunderstands power because it confuses visibility with control. True influence often hides. It works behind curtains, in the whisper that shifts a decision, in the subtle gesture that changes trust into obedience. The most powerful people are not always the loudest. They are the ones shaping the direction of those who speak. Influence is invisible by design. When others believe they are acting freely, yet move according to your architecture, the structure is complete. But the architecture of influence must rest on one crucial foundation: emotional detachment. You cannot control what you're desperate to keep. Desperation leaks energy. Composure attracts it. Those who act from need lose leverage. Those who act from choice gain it. Greene's laws echo this truth repeatedly. Always say less than necessary. Keep others dependent on you. Master the art of timing. Each one requires stillness under pressure. The true architect of influence never rushes. He knows that patience is not passive. It's the ultimate control. There's also ethics hidden in this architecture. The quiet moral test of how one uses influence. Power can illuminate or consume. It can build bridges or burn them. The manipulator uses knowledge of psychology for gain. The wise person uses it for understanding. Influence is not inherently corrupt. It becomes dangerous only when detached from empathy. A world without awareness of power breeds victims. A world without conscience breeds tyrants. The balance between the two is civilization itself. History shows this balance again and again. Marcus Aurelius ruled with restraint, embodying stoic power. Napoleon ruled with obsession, and his influence collapsed under its own weight. Both understood the architecture, but only one respected its limits. Influence must breathe. When held too tightly, it suffocates. The art lies in letting others feel free within your design, never realizing the structure surrounding them. The most masterful influence is the one that leaves no fingerprints. Power doesn't only belong to rulers or strategists. It belongs to every individual who learns how human behavior operates. You can use it to lead, to teach, to inspire. When you understand influence, you no longer react to others' manipulation. You recognize it. You stop being the pawn and become the observer. That awareness itself is liberation. The architecture of influence is timeless because it mirrors the architecture of the human mind. Fragile, emotional, yearning for direction. The blueprint never changes, only the materials do. Crowns become brands, swords become words, thrones become platforms. Yet the same old dance continues, between visibility and silence, control and surrender, dominance and connection. Robert Greene's 48 Laws are not instructions for cruelty. They are a vocabulary for understanding human nature. Once you see the structure, you can decide whether to use it or transcend it, because the ultimate form of influence is not manipulation, it is mastery of self. Only the one who no longer needs to control can truly lead. Every human being wears a mask, not out of deceit, but out of necessity. Society demands it. The subtle art of concealment, the careful management of how we appear. Power, Robert Greene reminds us, depends on that appearance. The mask is not a lie, it's armor. It shields the self from judgment, projection, and control. Behind every throne, every boardroom smile, every quiet influencer shaping reality, there's a mask perfectly fitted to the expectations of others. Those who understand the mask understand power, because people respond not to truth, but to image. They see what they want to see, and the powerful make sure to give them exactly that. Every successful ruler, every persuasive leader, every magnetic personality has learned this law. Control perception, and you control outcomes. The mask becomes a mirror, reflecting back to others their own desires, fears, and ideals. When people look at you and see themselves, their hopes, their values, their longings, they will follow you anywhere. But this manipulation of image is delicate. It's not about falsehood, but orchestration. A mask must align with something authentic within, or it will crumble. The dissonance between image and reality eventually exposes the unprepared. History is full of such downfalls. Leaders who believe their performance too deeply, losing themselves inside the role. The most dangerous illusion is the one you create for yourself. Greene's laws of power speak to this balance constantly. Never outshine the master. Always say less than necessary. Court attention at all costs. Each one involves performance. Understanding that power operates in the realm of perception, not truth. The world does not reward transparency. It rewards mystique. People crave stories more than honesty. They want to believe in characters, not complex humans, but symbols that confirm their worldview. The skilled manipulator offers them that story. The wise leader offers the same, but with awareness, not exploitation. The mask is the price of participation in human systems. Every professional, artist, parent, or lover wears it. It's not always deception. Sometimes it's compassion. To lead, you must mirror. To teach, you must translate. To love, you must adapt. The problem arises when we forget the boundary between mask and self. The performance becomes the identity. You begin to act, not because the moment demands it, but because the persona must survive. That's when influence turns hollow. In every form of power, the mask and the mirror exist together. The mask is the projection, the image you craft. The mirror is the reflection, the response you evoke in others. Together they create a loop of perception. The powerful understand this loop intuitively. They test it constantly. They observe how the world reflects them back, adjusting their mask with precision. It's not vanity, it's strategy. Power requires awareness of the audience, and the courage to remain detached from its praise or blame. Detachment is the secret strength of the mask. To maintain influence, you must never let emotion dictate your performance. Anger, jealousy, and insecurity are cracks in the facade through which others can seize control. The disciplined mind learns emotional invisibility, to appear calm while storms rage within. The mask gives time to think, to observe, to decide without being seen. Greene's laws echo this again and again. Pose as a friend, work as a spy, crush your enemy totally, keep others in suspended terror. These are not moral instructions but warnings that power, when stripped of empathy, becomes theater without conscience. Yet there is another kind of power, quieter, more human, that uses the mask as a tool for empathy rather than manipulation. To mirror someone truthfully is to understand them. To reflect back their fears without exploiting them is a form of influence that builds rather than breaks. In therapy, teaching, and art, this mirroring transforms. The listener becomes the mirror in which the other sees themselves clearly for the first time. Influence at its highest level is not about domination, it's about revelation. The ancient philosophers knew this. Socrates wore the mask of ignorance, pretending not to know, so others could discover truth themselves. The Buddha wore the mask of simplicity, concealing vast wisdom in silence. Even Christ spoke in parables, mirrors for the soul, not explanations. The greatest teachers of humanity have always understood that truth cannot be handed over, it must be mirrored into being. But in modern life, where image is currency and perception is economy, the mask has become a full-time profession. Social media amplifies it. Everyone curating, editing, branding. The danger is not in creating a persona, but in believing it is the whole of you. The more polished the mask, the easier it is to forget the person beneath. That's why those who wield power must practice solitude, to step away from the mirror and remember their reflection is not their essence. In the end, the mask and the mirror are inseparable from influence. Power requires both performance and reflection. The ability to shape how others see you while seeing through how they see themselves. The key is not to destroy the mask, but to master it, to wear it consciously, to remove it when it blinds, to use it not as deception but as design. Robert Greene wrote that power is about timing. When to reveal, when to retreat, when to play weak, when to act strong. The mask is the mechanism of that timing. It allows you to move through social landscapes without being consumed by them. It's not about pretending, it's about preserving. Because the truth is simple. Those who wear no mask are devoured by those who do, but those who never take it off forget who they are. The art of power lies in walking that line between image and essence, illusion and authenticity. The mask protects you. The mirror reminds you why you wear it. And between them lies the delicate equilibrium, where influence becomes something greater than control. It becomes understanding. Power is not maintained through strength. It is sustained through perception. The powerful are rarely the strongest. They are the ones who understand how people think, what they fear, and what they long to believe. Robert Greene's 48 Laws of Power revolves around this invisible mastery, the art of shaping emotions, not facts, because control, in its truest form, is not physical domination. It is psychological influence. It's the ability to make others move by their own will, while quietly directing the gravity that pulls them. Perception is the soil where power grows. Whoever defines the story defines reality. History's most influential figures, emperors, prophets, politicians, CEOs, all share one trait: they control the narrative. People will endure hardship, even injustice, if they believe it serves a meaningful purpose. The greatest tyrants understood this. So did the greatest reformers. Both operated through belief. The human mind, Greene observed, doesn't seek truth, it seeks coherence. When your actions and presence provide that coherence, others will trust you, even when logic fails. But to master perception, you must first master emotion, especially your own. The most dangerous opponent in any power dynamic is not another person, it's your reaction. Anger reveals weakness. Impatience leaks strategy. Desperation turns respect into pity. Emotional discipline is the cornerstone of control. Greene's law, never let your emotions cloud your judgment, is not about coldness, it's about command. Those who can remain calm while others panic become the natural center of every situation. Power gravitates toward composure. Yet control does not mean suppression. It means channeling emotion, converting it into precision. Think of a general before battle, or a surgeon before the cut. Both feel the tremor of fear, but neither allows it to rule. They transform it into focus. The same applies in every arena: negotiation, leadership, love. Power flows to the one who controls the emotional temperature of the room. When others heat up, cool down. When others hesitate, move. The powerful are conductors in the symphony of human volatility. Fear is perhaps the most ancient instrument of control. Used wisely, it can protect. Abused, it destroys. Fear works not by violence, but by imagination. It makes people restrain themselves before you even act. Greene's Law 17. Keep others in suspended terror. Doesn't advocate cruelty. It exposes a truth of perception. Uncertainty keeps attention. When people can predict you completely, they relax and stop respecting you. A touch of unpredictability maintains the aura of control. It's not about intimidation. It's about tension. The sense that you could act decisively at any moment. Controlled unpredictability sustains authority. The psychology of control also depends on scarcity. What is rare appears valuable. The person who gives too much of their time, approval, or emotion cheapens their influence. Learn to withdraw, Greene warns. The more you are seen and heard, the more common you appear. Distance creates demand. In human dynamics, what is inaccessible draws pursuit. The powerful cultivate mystery, not through arrogance, but through restraint. They understand that silence, strategically placed, is louder than explanation. But perception can also turn inward. Just as you craft how others see you, you must shape how you see yourself. Self-perception fuels every external dynamic. Those who secretly believe they are powerless unconsciously project that weakness in posture, tone, even silence. Confidence is not a trait, it's a signal. It tells others how to treat you. When your self-image collapses, influence follows. That's why Greene insists, assume power, even when you don't have it. It's not delusion, it's rehearsal. The mind cannot distinguish between confidence and competence for long. It begins to make one real through the other. To control perception, you must learn to speak the language of symbols. Humans are visual, metaphorical creatures. A uniform, a calm voice, a precise gesture, these carry more weight than arguments. Authority often rests on aesthetics. Kings built thrones, not for comfort but for effect. Today, that throne might be a reputation, a logo, a tone of voice, but the principle remains. People surrender willingly to symbols they trust. Influence, therefore, requires design of environment, of presence, of silence. Still, the most dangerous form of control is subtle. When people do what you want, because they think it's what they want. This is the highest art of perception management. It requires deep empathy, not manipulation. You must understand others so precisely that your goals align with their self-interest. When they feel seen, they stop resisting. This alignment creates the illusion of freedom within control, the same illusion that governs politics, persuasion, and even love. Power that feels oppressive sparks rebellion. Power that feels mutual endures. But control is never absolute. It's a negotiation between what people want to see and what you choose to show. Push too far, and trust evaporates. Hold too tightly, and rebellion brews. The wise balance of power is flexibility, appearing unshakable while remaining adaptive. Plan all the way to the end, Greene wrote, but he also warned, assume nothing. The most effective control adjusts to new information without panic. Adaptation is the invisible intelligence behind lasting influence. Ultimately, the psychology of control is not about enslaving others, but about mastering yourself within the unpredictable theater of human behavior. Every person, knowingly or not, plays both roles, controller and controlled. The only difference lies in awareness. To understand how perception works is to free yourself from it. To see through fear, flattery, and illusion is to move beyond their reach. Power, stripped of mystique, is simple. Perception managed through discipline. Control is not domination, it's direction. Influence is not coercion, it's comprehension. The most powerful person in any room is not the one commanding others, it's the one who commands themselves. Power is often mistaken for action. The world celebrates those who move first, speak loudest, and strike hardest, yet history tells another story. The most influential figures, from philosophers to generals to rulers, understood a subtler truth. Restraint is not weakness, but control refined to its highest form. The ability to hold back, to wait, to say nothing when provoked. That is the quietest and most difficult expression of power. Robert Greene's 48 Laws of Power return to this principle again and again, hidden behind the strategies and stories, the art of patience, the mastery of silence, the discipline to let others exhaust themselves. Restraint begins with self-mastery. You cannot influence what you cannot control, and most people cannot control themselves. They leak energy through emotion, overreaction, and impulse. They reveal their intentions too soon, their opinions too often, their fears too clearly. In doing so, they surrender leverage. The one who pauses, who delays reaction until observation is complete, always holds the higher ground. Greene's Law 4, always say less than necessary, captures this perfectly. Every word is a currency of control. The more you spend, the poorer you become. Restraint is not passivity. It is the deliberate conservation of force. Like a coiled spring, it stores potential energy until the precise moment of release. This is why timing, as Greene emphasizes, is the invisible axis of all power. Those who act too soon reveal desperation. Those who wait too long lose relevance. True mastery lies in patience that is active, waiting with awareness, gathering information, measuring silence as carefully as speech. Power thrives on rhythm, and restraint is its metronome. In a world addicted to speed and noise, restraint feels almost rebellious. We scroll, post, respond, argue, each reaction feeding the illusion of participation. But influence does not belong to the loud. It belongs to the observant. When you learn to do nothing, you begin to see everything. Every pause reveals patterns others are too frantic to notice. You see who leads from insecurity, who flatters from fear, who boasts to cover weakness. The quiet observer becomes the invisible strategist, collecting information in stillness, while others expose themselves in motion. There's also a deeper kind of restraint, emotional restraint. It is the refusal to let others dictate your internal weather. Greene warned that the reactive person is a slave to circumstance. Power dissolves when your mood is easily altered. The strong do not suppress emotion. They own it. Anger becomes information. Fear becomes preparation. Sadness becomes empathy. Restraint doesn't numb feeling. It transforms it into choice. To master restraint is to master interpretation, to decide what meaning you give each moment. This principle reaches beyond politics or war. It defines human relationships. The one who can stay calm when others lose control becomes the emotional anchor. In arguments, the calm voice wins. In negotiation, the patient silence unsettles. In leadership, the unflinching gaze commands trust. Restraint communicates security, and people instinctively follow whatever feels stable. That's why the composed individual holds influence even among the volatile. They radiate quiet authority, suggesting that while others react, they understand. Greene's Law 33. Discover each man's thumbscrew reminds us that restraint also allows understanding. When you're silent, people fill the space with themselves. They reveal their desires, weaknesses, and motivations. Words once spoken cannot be taken back, but silence invites revelation. The wise listen not for words but for patterns. The tremor in the voice, the speed of speech, the avoidance of certain topics. Every restraint deepens perception. The less you reveal, the more you see. Restraint also dismantles ego. Power intoxicates because it promises recognition. The urge to prove oneself, to correct others, to assert dominance. These are ego's reflexes, and they are predictable. Those ruled by ego can be provoked, manipulated, or destroyed. Those who master restraint become untouchable. They no longer need validation. They operate from inner purpose, not external reaction. Greene's Law 16. Use absence to increase respect and honor rests on this truth. Presence loses value without absence. Silence heightens significance. Distance creates gravity. In restraint, you learn that attention is the purest form of energy. What you give attention to grows. What you ignore fades. The powerful learn to withdraw attention from chaos, gossip, and distraction. They conserve it for what matters, for strategy, for observation, for intention. Every act of restraint reclaims power from the external world and returns it inward, strengthening the self. Even in warfare, restraint separates the reckless from the strategic. Sun Tzu wrote, "He will win who knows when to fight and when not to fight." The general who strikes impulsively risks annihilation. The one who waits until the opponent overextends wins without bloodshed. This same principle applies to modern power, in careers, relationships, politics. The person who speaks last often wins because they have heard everything. The person who doesn't defend every insult becomes larger than the insult. The person who delays gratification builds momentum while others burn out. Restraint also holds moral power. In an age of instant reaction and outrage, restraint becomes integrity. It allows reflection instead of revenge, empathy instead of escalation. It breaks cycles of conflict because it refuses to mirror aggression. This is not weakness, it's strength directed inward. As Marcus Aurelius wrote, "The best revenge is not to be like your enemy." The ability to pause, to think before acting, to respond with intention, is the difference between impulse and wisdom. Ultimately, the silent power of restraint comes down to trust, not in others, but in time. The patient believe that what is meant for them will arrive without force. They know that everything unravels eventually, that truth reveals itself, that silence amplifies what noise conceals. Greene's laws are built on this understanding. Influence is not maintained by pressure, but by gravity, the quiet pull of consistency, patience, and discipline. So when the world rushes, slow down. When it provokes, breathe. When it tempts you to prove your worth, remember, power proves nothing. It reveals everything. Restraint is the art of giving time enough space to serve you. It is the invisible crown of those who no longer need to shout, because in the end, it is not the loudest who lead, it is the calmest who endure. Power always carries a shadow. It is the silent twin that walks beside influence, unseen, but never absent. Every pursuit of control, every strategy, every law, from Robert Greene's book, ultimately leads back to a single truth. Power reveals more about the one who wields it than the one who obeys it. In the end, the question is not how to gain power, but how to live with it, without letting it hollow you from within. Robert Greene's 48 Laws of Power warns of this shadow through paradox. The very tools that grant influence, detachment, mystery, control, can also sever the bonds that make life meaningful. Power requires distance, but distance breeds loneliness. It demands discipline, but discipline can harden into coldness. The powerful learn to mask emotion until even they forget what it feels like. To maintain the image of control, they sacrifice vulnerability, and with it, authenticity. Over time, the performance consumes the performer. The mask becomes the face. From the outside, power seems intoxicating. The applause, the authority, the certainty. But up close, it demands a toll. The higher you climb, the fewer truths you hear. People stop challenging you. They start performing. You begin to mistake obedience for loyalty, fear for respect, agreement for admiration. Slowly, the echo chamber builds its walls around you. This is the shadow of power, isolation disguised as importance. Many great rulers, thinkers and visionaries have lost themselves not to defeat, but to that silence. This is the tragedy of unchecked power. It grants control over others, but erodes connection to oneself. Every manipulator eventually manipulates their own reflection. Every strategist eventually becomes trapped in their own calculations. Greene's laws are not commandments to follow blindly. They are mirrors meant to warn us. Power, if used unconsciously, becomes its own prison. The paradox, then, is this. To truly master power, you must be willing to let it go. You must understand its mechanics without worshiping them. You must play the game without becoming the game. History's wisest figures did exactly that. Marcus Aurelius wielded authority over the known world, yet reminded himself daily, "You are just a man." Gandhi influenced millions without a throne or weapon. Nelson Mandela turned decades of imprisonment into moral authority. Their power was not in domination but in depth, the mastery of self that made external control irrelevant. Because all power begins and ends in the same place, awareness. The awareness of how easily influence corrupts, how desire distorts perception, how fear drives cruelty. The awareness that power without empathy is destruction wearing a crown. Greene's work is not an instruction manual for tyranny. It's an anatomy of human behavior, a reminder that power lives within everyone, in every choice, every silence, every reaction, and with it comes responsibility. Every time you choose patience over reaction, you reclaim power. Every time you listen instead of dominate, you expand it. Every time you resist the urge to control others, and instead master yourself, you redefine it. Power does not corrupt by existence, it corrupts by absence of reflection. The moment you stop asking why you want control, control begins to own you. The true master of power knows that strength without humility becomes arrogance, and arrogance is always the beginning of downfall. The ancient Greeks called it hubris, the sin of forgetting one's limits. Empires have fallen, not because of enemies, but because of blindness to their own excess. The more one tries to dominate, the more fragile they become, because fear replaces trust, paranoia replaces peace, and isolation replaces understanding. That is the shadow's work. Yet, there is light within that shadow. To understand power's darkness, is to begin transforming it. When you study the laws, conceal your intentions, master timing, guard reputation, you start to see them not as tricks, but as reflections of human nature. You see the insecurity that drives people to seek approval, the fragility beneath ambition, the vulnerability inside confidence, and in that moment, power stops being a weapon and becomes insight. You begin to understand not how to win over others, but how to understand them, and most of all, yourself. The final stage of mastery is transcendence, when you no longer need to manipulate, because you see through the illusion of control itself. The strongest people are not those who dominate others, but those who can face their own power without turning cruel. They walk with it lightly. They understand that influence, like breath, must flow freely, that the more tightly it's held, the faster it dies. In the end, power and humility are not opposites. They are balance. The same awareness that allows one to influence others must also keep the ego grounded. Real power is not about victory. It's about responsibility. It's the quiet recognition that to move others ethically, you must first move yourself toward clarity, to influence minds without enslaving them, to lead without erasing empathy. So when you finish reading the 48 Laws of Power, you may feel both fascination and discomfort. And that is exactly the point. Because to understand power is to confront the truth of being human, that we are all capable of cruelty, brilliance, manipulation, and grace. The laws do not teach dominance. They reveal choice. Every law is a mirror, showing you what you could become if you lose awareness, and what you can become if you keep it. Perhaps that's the final law, the one unwritten in Greene's book. Know the shadow you cast, because every act of power leaves an imprint on others, on the world, and on yourself. If you walk through life aware of that shadow, you can guide it, but if you ignore it, it will guide you. And when all the strategies fade, when titles vanish, when influence slips away, only one question remains. Did you use power to serve yourself, or to understand what it means to be human? That answer, whispered in the quiet between action and reflection, is where real mastery begins.